Next in my little mini series here on escape rooms, as I'm kind of chatting through my thought process, I want to talk about servers. So our background before we got into escape rooms, our background was tech theater, and so I've been using QLab in tech theater, the de facto standard for sure, since 2008. Back with QLab version 1. We're on QLab version 5 now, and it is wild how much it has just dominated the industry because it is really great at what it does, and the feature set has exploded. What you can do with it now. There's a little demo blog post that they have where they show like building this whole little animation, and it's all freaking text. It's like emojis and stuff in text, and it's text cues flying around that they've made this animated like scene with a little taxi cab going by. It's so cool from a little tech level. But we use QLab for all of our media sequences. So we've also done stuff with Brightside players. We've done stuff with little Noemi players. If you need just like simple stuff, we've built our own little video servers off of Pies, a whole lot of stuff. But QLab is really where it's at. If I need central media management, that's what I'm reaching for, because I can handle tremendous levels of audio and video interacting, playing over multiple outputs, multiple spaces, going where I need it to go, and all tied back to a central sort of media stack. And that stack doesn't have to be linear. It doesn't go from Q1 to Q100. Like it can branch all over the place. Now, where QLab isn't great is conditional logic. It has arming and disarming, so I can tell it, hey, this queue can't go until this queue's happened. But that stacking gets convoluted quickly when you really need in-depth or nested conditional triggers. And so that's where I've had a couple different solutions over time. Some has been like offloading some of that logic back into the controllers. And that's the bigger conversation, is like where your logic is it in the controllers or is it in the server, which we'll hit on. The other thing I've done is reaching out to external things. So like with LabRats, we used Bohm's MIDI translator, and now it's actually holding our variables. So we were actually passing it from QLab, would send out MIDI commands. Bohm's, in that one, mostly did the counting. So we needed to count, hey, there are 3 trigger puzzles in each phase for each room. When those 3 are done, then it needs to go to the next phase. But they can be done in any order. So I can't say, well, 1 lets you do 2 and 2 lets you do 3. And so basically, QLab would have the command, that it would receive the command, hey, trigger puzzle 2 is done. And then it would talk to Bohms, say, cool, trigger 2 is done. Bohms would sit there with a little box of variables and say, cool, 2 is turned on. Check, are all 3 turned on? And when all 3 are turned on, send a different completed command to QLab, so just offloading that counting. I've also done that with processing, is how we did incoming transmission. The game would run all of your media, but then processing would keep track of your score and which planets you had visited and which phases you were in and things like that. And then the newest one with Edison and Tesla is we're using Node-RED. And Node-RED is absolutely so much more user-friendly and stacked than processing was. Just processing is pretty straightforward. It's running scripting on your computer, and it's a great little entry point, but Node-RED makes it very easy to get around and get very, very deep very fast. So with Edison Tesla, Node-RED is really our central server. The way we've actually broken it down on this one, our props don't know anything. They don't know their correct code. They just know their thing. So if I have a button panel, all it does is when you push a button, it screams out into the void over MQTT. It says, hey, button 2 was pushed. It does nothing else. It doesn't even know, are you allowed to push buttons yet? It just knows button 2 was pushed. And so it sends that out, and then Node-RED is catching that. It's handling all of our props, all of our prop controllers, all of our prop management. It's talking to all of them. It's got a heartbeat with all of them, which I'll talk on more a little later in another video. But it knows, hey, this prop is online. It can help bring them back online. It listens for all those button pushes. And then it knows the game state. So it knows, great, this prop is allowed to do button pushes right now. They've gotten to a stage where it can, it's turned on, it's activated. So if that's the case, and then they push this button, what's the correct code? Do this. And then the really cool part about it is it's also able to then drive a Game Master screen that is talking about, and we'll probably do a whole video on the Game Master screen and like what information they're able to get from each of the props, how they can control them, what they can see, their current state, the feedback the players get. And then, yeah, it's bringing those button pushes in, showing the game master not only did they get the right code, but what code did they try, so we can start to read into, as well as listening in on them like everyone does. Like, we can also read into what's their processing logic. They did it, was there a tech issue and something false triggered, or are they have the map backwards in their head, and so they're pushing the buttons wrong. You know, is it a player thing? Is it an us thing? Whatever. And there can also be those cases where, like, yeah, it is a player thing, but it's better for the players if I just push them past it, you know, like, so it could even have alternate correct answers in that case. You could actually program that in, or you can leave it up to game masters. Ton of flexibility, ton of power. But yeah, so none of the props actually know anything about what they're doing. They just send it to Node-RED. Node-RED handles the logic of the puzzle solve. And then when the puzzle's solved, it sends the command out to QLab to say, hey, they solved a puzzle, do a thing. And so that is as simple as, like, on a lot of my button panels and things like that, my little secret triggers, they make a sound. So you touch one of them, prop screams into the void, hey, a button was pushed. Node-RED catches that and says, great, it's active, so QLab, hit a sound. And then it does a little bink, you know, some sort of UI notification. And then when solved, it sends the big, it was solved trigger and lets QLab run the media sequence. It also keeps track of this was solved and can do other things with that. QLab would then send commands back to Node-RED for, like, my game, anything game flow related comes from QLab. So it would then send in things, say, like, great, now that we've solved that puzzle, then that means you need to activate this puzzle and activate that puzzle. So Node-RED is tracking the puzzle logic and any variables, game state, and QLab is keeping track of game flow. From here I go to there, I open this, I allow this, I open that box, I do that. So Node-RED is kind of the central hub for literal communication in a lot of ways too. It just talks to more stuff simpler. So in QLab, I also have like a companion module. We're using Bitfocus Companion with a Stream Deck for some Game Master buttons and some feedback. We have our network-based relays that we're using to actually control the power of the switches, the cabinets in the room, the 12-volt mag locks, all that stuff. And then we have all of our input servers, our props. And so all of those things are talking to Node-RED, which is handling, like, the communication hub as well. And then we actually are bridging, like, even our relays and things from QLab. It's the one that's actually saying, hey, cabinet 3 open. But the way it tells it that is that sends back into Node-RED. Node-RED processes that, turns it into, maybe we'll do a video on the relays, because I really like our network relays, but they take these, like, raw hex codes to actually drive them. QLab is a little annoying to do that. So QLab, I ended up doing a very simple text-based API that QLab is sending over network back to Node-RED, which is running on the same computer with it, and then that is actually formatting it with a clean function and sending it out. So yeah, all that to say, there's a lot of different ways to do everything. One of our big specialty or feature, the thing that we're kind of known for, is this central control of automation where the entire game, everything about the room, the lights, the sound, the video, in all the places, is part of the same tech design media stack, and it is all interacting and immersing, versus having, when the game starts, I hit play on a soundtrack, and then this prop does this, and this thing does that, and yeah, just the way that we allow everything to affect everything, in short. And so, again, there's a lot of ways to accomplish that. Node-RED and QLab is how we're doing it today. If I'm going into a new room design or a new prop design, you know, I'm definitely not going to instantly, like, great, we need to overhaul this whole server and build it this way. You know, there's definitely tons of applications where you don't want to have that central control. You want your prop to know what it's doing, and it's just so much better, simpler to just say, this prop knows that these are the buttons and this, and you can still send some of those outputs. Like, there's nothing saying that that button panel, where you know, it right now in mine it doesn't know the code. There's nothing to say that I couldn't have put the code on it, have it know what it is, and then still have it scream out into the void, this was the attempt, and then still catch that somewhere and show it to a game master to give them that feedback, even having commands to go into it, even including commands to like reset the code and things like that. So I could have like an MQTT command that it accepts that sets what the code should be for the next room run. So I could change things. I could still do a lot of the possibilities here of having like different game modes or different puzzles, or you want the hard version of the game, so anything I can change electronically, like make codes longer or things like that, that makes sense. You still do things like that. This is just the sort of centralized approach that made sense for this room in particular. And then I guess my last parting thought is that obviously I've talked through a couple different ways that I've done this in the past. I kind of change it up every time. Like, it's whatever makes sense for this room, for today, for where we are right now with technology, with skill sets. And that's kind of how we're always growing in all the things that we do. We never do the same thing twice. We always are constantly improving, learning a new technique, getting a new machine, learning a new technology, thinking about a new way to do it that makes sense for that exact application where we are. And that's ultimately what you get when you're working with Nexus Workshop. That's why we are what we are, is because we're constantly reinventing ourselves and improving, iterating every single time. So you now have a couple decades of experience of tech theater and video production and escape room design and electronics builds, all leading us to what we're doing today. And that makes what we're doing today the best thing we've ever done, until tomorrow, when we'll do the best thing we've ever done again.